What's good, party people? This is Voodoo in the Woods. I'm Accord in the Woods, and he is former of MMA champion Pius Enila Lobo, better known as Voodoo Maximus. Yes, and
Hello,
this is the
hello,
Voodoo in
hello.
the Woods year in review for last year, 2021. And thanks to our good friends, the Keyboard Warriors MMA podcast, because we have borrowed their Keyboard Warriors MMA awards. So shout out to Fred Kirby and Eddie Law. But without further ado, man, this year in fights of 2021, what did you make of it?
Uh, I saw potential. I saw potential. In youth. I saw evolution. Uh, the sport is evolving so fast right before our eyes that people are creating techniques instantly, and it's turning into something immediately nowadays. I mean, when you look at the world of no-gi grappling, look at what's going on over there. It's insane what's going on over there. Look at that combat jujitsu. Look at what's going on over there. You know what I'm saying? All those super jujitsu fellas, when you get to put hands on them now, you know what I'm saying? They're reacting different. You know, this is reality. You know what I mean? That's that old school Hickson Gracie jujitsu right there. The what you see in that combat jujitsu. Hickson was doing that years back. You know what I mean? And I like that kind of stuff. So when you take that experience and then you put it to the situation when it matters most, like mixed martial arts, for example, it turns that individual into a whole nother weapon, kind of. You know what I mean? Like there's just so you ever watch one of them movies, man, when the dude just keeps pulling on a different gun from a different holster? You know what I'm saying? A different
That
size
doesn't.
gun. He's got an AK. Then he's got a Uzi. Then he's got a 9. Then he's got a 50. You know what I mean? It's
What movies are
options.
you watching?
I'm gonna
My
get you sucker or something
the
like
that I
that. You
watch
know what I
have
mean?
like Sandra Bullock and I don't know, fucking Johnny Knoxville. I don't know. Apparently, I'm
Something
watching a
like
lot of
that.
movies.
But the option, when you're fully mixed martial art, the option that the options in many diverse ways of winning improves by a lot. So this is what we witnessed when we saw Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. But I guess we'll get to that one later.
Which I mean, talking about options, I think I get it. So instead of hitting somebody else or whatever, with that big ass hand in the last Jackass movie, they decided, oh, Bam Margera, let's hit him, and then they fucking took that thing back and fucking smacked him, and fortunately now he has addiction problems. So I think that didn't work. That didn't work. And AB Baca says, "What up, big dog? What's going on, AB? Glad to have you there." Fight Life Nation saying, "Happy New Year's, guys. 2021 was a great year for fights. Can't wait to see what the year brings." And
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, the UFC is getting started on January 15th. Saturday, January 15th will be the first UFC card of the year. Um, but yeah, so barring a bit from the Keyboard Warriors uh, deal here. So let's go from top to bottom.
Hmm.
Upset of the year. So Voodoo, if I were going to ask you your opinion of what the upset of the year was, what would that
Hmm.
be?
Was more shocking to me than Amanda Nunez, Juliana Pena. That was the most shocking to me this year. Most significant this year. Uh, in the essence of the word upset, that is the match for me for this year.
Yeah, I can't agree with you anymore. Uh, I mean, obviously, and right because the way that the UFC kind of books people, right? They made Ronda this unstoppable monster. At least they let you believe that, right? And for her time, she absolutely was not taking anything away from Ronda Rousey, right? And then, you know, you basically had Nunez coming in, and she KO's Cyborg, KO's Rousey, chokes out Tate. Thing did she? Can't remember what she did to Holly Holm, whether it be a knockout or submission, but she was just this.
It was a roundhouse kick to the face.
Roundhouse kick. There you go. So and not to say that we doubted Juliana Pena, but Rick Little, her coach at Jiu-Jitsu, right? Juliana Pena's coach in Sick Jiu-Jitsu up in Spokane, Washington, I believe. He was saying, like, he's got it. He's got it. He knows what to do to nullify Nunez. And it's weird because, like, we've heard this before, right? For me, the death knell of a fighter is like, oh, I've never felt any better when they come back from a long sabbatical. Like, a Rashad Evans, a Chuck Liddell, twice with Chuck Liddell. To me, that's a death knell where they're like, oh, I've never felt better. I've never felt better. And they get KO'd. Your body might be right, but your chin might not be, right? So when I heard Rick Little go, oh, we know exactly what it takes, or whatever, well, I'm conditioned to Alexander Gustafsson. For damn near 2 hours on Joe Rogan's podcast, he's like, oh, I know exactly how to beat John Jones. And he actually fared worse than he did in the first fight with Jones. So man, Rick Little was right. He knew exactly, and it wasn't just the fact that they KO. Well, I mean, to me, it's a knockout. That submission came. She was already on Spaghetti Street. She was on spaghetti legs, on Dream Street, right? Because it was just a sequence of events. And it's weird how the first round of that fight went, where you literally had Pena have a come to Jesus moment as Nunez is literally raining down strikes, right? Like hail, like raining down absolute strikes and devastation. And it was like, oh no, like she could die. That's what I thought coming away from that first round. But that second round, she figures it out, and it was just, I mean, it was expertly executed, right? But it was kind of rudimentary, where like everything that you were taught in like striking, to kind of bob and slip and weave, she was ducking out of the punches, getting inside, punching Nunez, right, with a right. Was it a right or a left? That was just straights.
Yeah, straight up. The jab was set in a tone, and then that cross was coming over the top. It's almost like hookish, but not really. It's more straight than hook. You know what I'm saying? She was sneaking those right in there. Sha-la, fwa-fwa. With them 1-2s. Sha-sha.
Yeah.
Snapping. Them hands were snapping, man. Awesome fight.
No, 100%. Which I always wondered, right? Like when people are making sounds when they strike, what does that come from?
It's more. It helps pace the breathing. It helps pace the breathing. When you throw your shots like that, you're breathing out. You're forcing yourself to breathe, right? And when you breathe out, automatically you're gonna breathe in. A lot of people forget to breathe out, so they hold their breath, right? So you see that a lot with little kids and amateurs. They hold their breath instead of, but we learned from boxing way back. Those who pay attention to boxing will hear this sound with the boxers. Every time you breathe out like that, you're forced to breathe back in automatically. So it's your job to breathe out. So when you're able to do that and you manage it and you don't let the opponent control your rhythm, then you can stay in the fight. But when the opponent pressures, it forces that breathing pattern that you're comfortable with to be managed, so to speak, right? So when you're in that situation, then the opponent has a higher probability of winning the match, right? So you were saying about Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena felt that disruption in that breathing, and she's like, "Oh, no! I can't let you take control of that." You know what I'm saying? So if we're gonna bang it out, we're gonna bang it out. So she's, because it was a ground escape, right? And then she got back up. Then they went at it. So let's go. They went at it, and she realized right down the middle was the key, and right down the middle was that jab was key though. The jab stuns her, and then the other one comes over the top. Wow, whacks her. And this is pretty much really Nunez's strategy too. She did a Nunez on Nunez, was pretty much what that was.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? Straight shots down the middle, down the pipe. If you watch Amanda Nunez, she doesn't usually waste punches. You know what I mean? It's all straight shots. She gains a range. You know what I mean? And she's throwing at arm's length at all times. At arm's length. She doesn't, not usually hooks. I mean, she'll throw hooks if she has to, but 80% of the time, she's throwing that length. And she's throwing a whole lot of bomb with that. You know what I mean? So she found a way, Juliana Pena, to enter that center before Amanda could get there. You know what I mean? And Amanda seemed to be throwing hookish straights. Like, I felt the elbow were up a lot, and when you're going around, the fastest way across a circle is a straight line. Juliana Pena had to straight line, and everything was working out for her. And, hey, who knows? The second match, Amanda Nunez come out and just beep, knock her clean out. And then we got a rubber match, a third match. Then Juliana, you know what I mean? We don't know. Maybe Juliana comes back and he's like, "Oh, I got you now. What's happening?" And finish her in the first round next time. Who knows? Who knows? All this, we shall see.
If that, I mean, I don't want to say a rematch for the bantamweight. I'm going winner take all. Let's say you bump her up to featherweight, and give her a taste of.
Hey, make it a double champ thing. You know what I'm saying? Immediately, why not? Why not? Have her fight for the 45 belt. Why not? She'll do it. Juliana Pena is that person. She's ready right now. She already got the baby out the way. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? She's made a human already. Now she's back, replenished, and doing it. You know what I mean? She's fulfilled now. She's got a title now. You know what I mean? Everything that she's been saying all along, she's backed it up with the gold. Now she said, "I told y'all." You know what I'm saying? I told y'all. Look. You know what I mean? Look. Heavyweight title right here. You know what I mean? She could say that. She's earned the right to say that. Even if she's showing off, she's earned the right to show off. And she ain't even doing that. But she's entitled to that. You know what I'm saying? In the fashion in which she won. It was dominant. It was it was like, "Oh, I cut her neck, choking, I got the choke." You know what I mean? It was, nah, I'm the alpha today. On this day, I'm the alpha female in this ring. What's happening? I'm the alpha on this day. It's me. You know what I'm saying? And at the end, she shook her head. She stood there, you know what I mean? She stayed there on her knee, shook their hand, boom, love and respect in that moment. That the whole thing was magical. It wasn't, it couldn't have gone more perfect for a fighter than it went for Juliana Pena. You know what I mean? The whole hype to the fight, selling the fight, you know what I mean? The narrative implemented in the octagon, and then fruition. You know what I mean? Victory. It's just a perfect story. You can make a movie about this. She is ready for a movie, man. You can make a movie about her life already because she's got gold. You know what I'm saying? Someone can make a movie about Juliana Pena already, right now. She's been through it all already. She's been through it all. She is the ultimate fighter winner. You know what I'm saying? She's been in the UFC since the very beginning of her career. Going at it with the top level fighters. She's lost some. But hey, persistence. Look where it's at. She realized, hey man, I better grab this mic and start calling people out. You know what I mean? I'm calling you out, Amanda Nunez. And they said she's been doing this since 2000 or something like that, 2010 or whatever. UFC 200, UFC 200. That's what it was, not 2000. Since UFC 200, she's been calling Amanda Nunez. I'm like, what's happening? Amanda's like, you're not on my level, homie. Straight up. And I can understand why she says that. You know what I mean? She is the double champ. She could say that because she's in position to say that. So the drag works. You know what I mean? But Nunez like, hey man, I'm gonna beat whoever I need to beat to get to you, homie. And she did just that, and then got that title shot. And then from the title shot, guess what? Checkmate.
No, yeah.
All sides got the ball.
Stephanie Black says, take off that flu sweater. Ooh, ouch. Ooh, ouch, Stephanie. And Sean John Thompson says, yes, sir. I agree. And hello there,
what's
guys.
Up, y'all? What's up?
What's going on, Sean John? And
what's up, Wishoka? What's up, OG?
Yeah.
What's good with y'all?
Again, Stephanie just hating on the sweater. That's a rough deal. But thank you for joining us, Stephanie, as well as Sean. Obviously, we got to go with submission of the year for 2021. What say you, Voodoo?
Okay. There were a lot of great submissions. There were so many. All deserving of this accolade. But on the highest level, or at the highest level, executing against a top 3 individual, securing the rear naked choke in the submission under such pressure in a 5-round championship match. I believe he finished him in the 3rd or 4th. Charles Oliveira is my guy. And another reason why I'm picking him, because he got the record. He's got the most submission in UFC. He's got the record. He finished a top 3 opponent with a submission, rear naked choke. The way he did it, the sequence of events that led to the finish, was nothing short of perfection. So Charles Oliveira is my guy for submission of the year.
I understand what you're saying here. I absolutely do. And nothing against it. I mean, to me, I've kind of voiced my kind of displeasure for one Dustin Poirier. So there was nothing more satisfying than seeing it finish, right? And in that, oh, I'm such a real fighter, blah, 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 but goes and takes the money fight rather than the title fight. He almost thumbed his nose at Charles Oliveira and what have you. So there's nothing more satisfying last year than to see him get finished. And Oliveira, come on, look. Chandler, right? Longtime Bellator champion, right? Literally one of the cornerstones of Bellator, Oliveira fucking beat the shit out of him, right? And then, the best that the UFC had to offer, not name Khabib or Conor, in Poirier, and he finishes him as well. Now, as much as I want to, say that, and I'm giving him all the props in the world, but to me, there's nothing more earth-shattering, right, in terms of changing the lexicon of a particular division, right? Not just in the UFC, but the world over in the division, right? You got to go with, again, Juliana Pena. I'm sorry, my fucking brain got scattered. And the reason why I'm saying is none other than Kayla Harrison, right? Olympic gold medalist, right? Multiple time PFL tournament champion, right? And she was in the crowd, and she knew, and she was like, fuck. And I don't know, but I want to do a little bit of fantasy booking here. Were they actually trying to have a super fight? kind of bridge a deal where PFL and UFC co-promotes something between Nunez and Kayla Harrison? You
I
know?
believe Kayla Harrison is a free agent now, which is why it could have been a possibility. UFC didn't have to deal with PFL, so they were out of the question. You know what I'm saying? PFL already said, we'll give you this much. All that was already discussed. Or even if it wasn't, whatever. You know what I mean? Bottom line, UFC had free range to do business with her. So they could have created a narrative of this Olympian champion, two-time Olympian, two-time PFL $1 million winner. You know what I mean? A millionaire from tournaments. You know what I mean? A millionaire was created from tournaments, right? And then now she's looking forward to coming over and seeing who is the real alpha female when we are talking about in the world possibility. Amanda Nunez had win that match, then they could spin that narrative and say, okay, we have first double champ female reigning, defending in both weight classes simultaneously, putting it down. You know what I'm saying? Over and over, knocking them all out until Juliana Pena. You know what I'm saying? Juliana Pena derailed a multi-million-dollar opportunity by defeating the champion. You know what I mean? Because that could have been sold worldwide. Those two females going at each other. You know what I'm saying? The PFL champion versus the. I mean, you don't even have to mention the PFL thing because everyone knows this champion for who she is as an Olympian before she was even PFL. So you can just say Kayla Harrison versus the UFC's Amanda Nunez, who is the one reigning single solitary champion. But then, Juliana Pena was like, sorry, my turn. Game changer.
Now, now, mind you, right? Nunez loses the bantamweight, the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship, so she still has the women's featherweight, the UFC Women's Featherweight Championship, and it's kind of slim pickings over there. So a potential match with Kayla Harrison can still happen at 145, winner take all, but it's a lot less sexy now that Nunez got finished.
Yeah, and the aura of invisibility cannot be sold anymore. You know what I'm saying? It affects most, but it didn't affect Connor because Connor appeals to people in a different way. They follow him because he was knocking people out, but he's reached a bit further than most people, such that even in loss, they will still come by the billions to watch him fight. You know what I mean? He will still sell the most pay-per-view. Even though he's on a 3-fight losing streak, he broke his leg. People are gonna come back and they're gonna say, "Man, how has he healed up? What's he gonna be like?" They will come to see it live, and therefore he will continue to sell because he is that kind of dude, right? But other people like the champ, you know what I mean? I don't believe has that kind of pull. Her aura of invincibility has now been taken off the table. So she has to regain it by sequencing more knockouts, stringing them together, right? If she
Right.
can go back to devastating at least two back-to-back knockouts, right? We can start looking at her like that again and just say we can chop it up to like uh uh she wasn't feeling well or it was her off day. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So you could create that narrative to fill in for the loss. She's just got to string back knockout wins once again, and then she'll be back in the game.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But you're going with Charlotte Olives, and I'm going with Miss Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen. So
Deserving.
yeah, and it's crazy for our submission of the night or the year rather. We both picked champions, so it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool to know, the best of a particular division is also the best in their class in terms of submission. So this is where, kind of UFC rankings, you kind of poke holes on it. Sometimes it's like Swiss cheese or, the unfortunate victim of I don't know, one of those, you made a gun reference or whatever, like a drive-by shooting or one of those
Right.
mafioso Gatling gun, whatever the fucks, right? That's
Right.
how, and let's say that cadaver drink some water and then they'll fucking turn into a fountain, right? That's something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's not the reference I should. I know people getting dumped on their fucking heads. That's all I know. I don't know about like guns and knives and shit like that, but theoretically speaking, right, you can kind of poke holes in UFC's rankings, right? But in this particular instance, with both Pena and Charles Oliveira, right, where it kind of matches up, the champions of the division also taking home our fucking submission of the year.
And both of them deserving, most definitely deserving. I mean, there were more cooler
Yeah, of
finishes,
course.
but it's not about that. I'm looking at the full impact, the full complete impact. I'm looking at the pressure that they were under. You know what I mean? The level of competition. This is at the highest level. Not many fights were compared to this finish. You know what I mean? What do you say? Makachev, he has some cool ones, right? But the pressure was not the same. Dustin Poirier is a top 3 fighter. He hasn't beaten a top 3 fighter yet. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it is what it is. We shall see. We shall see. But
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with my pick.
No, 100%. So going back to the Keyboard Warriors MMA awards, right? We've got the comeback of the year. What say you in terms of comeback of the year? It could either be a fight or also just in terms of their overall career. Who is Voodoo Maximus comeback of the year in terms of MMA?
Um, I'll give it to Dustin Poirier. I'll give it to Dustin Poirier.
Okay.
Yeah, he's most improved fighter for me this year. He only had one shot, like Eminem said, one shot, and he used that shot and doubled up on it. You know what I'm saying? Coming back and doing it again. You know what I'm saying? And getting more money. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that. I'm not saying that, the fellas that were rocked and they were doing that, you know what I mean? And then they came back and they finished the other guy. I'm not saying those guys are not deserving. I'm not motivated by that to pick my guy. You know what I mean? Dustin Poirier, the foresight of understanding what's most important. He already fought Khabib. He lost. Then he went right back around whooping ass. And he came back around. You know what I mean? Now it's a new champion. I could go for the gold, or I could go for McGregor. You know what I mean? Dustin got that pitch. He pointed like the big, great Bambino.
Mm-hmm.
He whacked it to exactly where he said it was going to go. You know what I mean? Scored himself whatever millions of dollars in that first fight against McGregor, especially because he won that fight, because he wasn't, you know what I mean? He wasn't voted to win that fight. He was the underdog in that fight. You know what I'm saying? Because McGregor already beaten him. So in that first fight, he won by knockout. You know what I'm saying? So he got knockout bonus and all that too with it, right? So he got paid real good. And then he doubled up on that same effort because he was able to, let's just say Dustin caught a wave, right? A nice 15-foot wave, right? In that first match, and then he doubled it to a 30-foot wave. But from 15, it increased its pace all the way to 30, right? He stayed balanced the whole time. Jumped on that next wave, doubled up on that second fight, and he won again. There's no comeback better than that to me, man. No comeback better than that. Did you see him at Christmas singing and stuff like that? You know why? Because a certain part of his brain never has to worry anymore. You know what I'm saying? That goes so far for some people. You know, some people already have freedom of that space in their mind, in their brain, but a lot of people worry about, when am I gonna pay the next this? How am I gonna pay? You know what I'm saying? Now Dustin has relieved himself of that if he spends his money wisely, right? He doesn't have to worry about, paying for this or paying for it. He was able to separate himself and allow himself that freedom. You know what I'm saying? That to me is the best comeback. He had been written out, counted out. I wasn't going for Dustin. I'll be honest. I was going for Conor.
Yep.
Because to me, Conor's best for business. Conor pushes the numbers. He pushes the needles. And I want to see how hard that needle can go. I don't give a damn who's pushing the needle. It just so happens to be Conor. It is what it is. So if he's going to push it, I'm going to celebrate. And I want to see how high he can push it. You know what I mean? The fact that anyone that fights him instantly becomes a millionaire, I'm for that. I'm for that. The more fights that can create millionaires, the more I want to see. You know what I mean? And right now, Conor is the only one making it happen like that for people to become instant millionaires. Unless you're in PFL, fighting like 4 people to get to you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You fight one fight in the UFC, you can become a millionaire. But you got to fight Conor McGregor, right? He was able to stay in the game for 2 fights. Double down, man. The first one, pay for his taxes. The second one, clean. He gets to keep that. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. So for my comeback of the year, it's a toss-up, right? I was kind of thinking about Dominic Bruce because this is somebody who, he's got to be one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. Yeah, nothing against Henry Cejudo, right? Obviously, Mighty Mouse was at flyweight and still at flyweight, but Dominic Cruz has to be in contention for being one of the bantamweight greatest of all time, right? Literally, Alpha Male was just turning their fighters and their coach himself and Uriah Faber just turning out people to fucking fight Dominic, and Dominic was, on top. He reigned supreme. But in 2021, he had 2 bouts, right? And the most recent with none other than, this should have been the career killer for Dom in Pedro Munoz, right?
Right.
I guess fucking Dominic Cruz didn't get the fucking memo because he bested fucking Pedro Munoz, who, in his own right was kind of making his run and intentions known for the bantamweight title. So Dominic Cruz is right there because broken hands, all this shit, his fucking knees and everything. He just comes back to show his greatness. Now, are they the most entertaining fights? That's arguable. But the fact that he's still in there with the best of them, and you can't tell me that fucking Pedro Munoz is not one of the best in the fucking bantamweight division or bantamweight anywhere, right? So there's that. But even a bigger banner year is Marlon Chitovera, who's had a bigger fucking year than Chito, right? You can argue, and nothing against Chito, right? But you could argue that a lot of the points that fucking Sean O'Malley was making about him being a journeyman and what have you, right, could have been true, right? It's almost like that weird space where the shit that fucking Conor McGregor was saying about Habib, it was like, oh, but then when you start looking into it, oh fuck, right? So with that all being said, right, Chitovera, fucking finish O'Malley, right? And that could have been at the end of, like, the fights just kind of fucking, they're all mixed in there. There was so many fights, and I'm not complaining at all, right? But in his next fight, Cheeto fucking pulls off, an impressive finish, ends up on the Joe Rogan podcast, and look
Yeah.
at how many fucking, you know, in terms of, you know, notoriety, there isn't any bigger media outlet than Joe Rogan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he showed himself, and Rogan is beyond just MMA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he showed himself in his story, and it's even more compelling, you know. Um, so to me, there isn't a bigger fucking comeback than Chito Vera, you know.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good one too. That's a good one too.
Yeah,
You know? Yeah,
which
he's definitely deserving.
yeah, that's it. I'm gonna just sing the praise. Like again, I've known a lot of people who fucking know him and what
Mm-hmm.
have you, and him being at Timoyama and what have you. But like just his fucking story, like I got an even more appreciation for Cheeto beyond the fights, beyond the fucking impressive finishes, beyond the fucking, he's been fighting since he was like fucking 7. This
Mm-hmm.
dude, So shout out to fucking Cheeto Vera. So he's got my fucking nod for comeback of the year, and it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be a pretty big and banner year in 2022 for him. I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
Which
Um,
I'm going to veer a little bit off of the path because
okay.
they didn't put the commentator of the year. So in terms of commentator of the year, Voodoo, in all of the MMA lexicon, who would you say is the greatest when you turn on the fucking TV, fire up the ESPN Plus for either PFL or UFC? You hit up the fucking Showtime for Bellator. You fucking go to Paramount Plus for Combate. You might fire up the UFC Fight Pass to see LFA or CFFC. Right, we've got John Morgan, CM Punk, and CFFC. You've got a litany of fighters kind of making the rotation for LFA. But
Mm-hmm.
who's your commentator of the year?
It's hard to go against Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? To go against Joe Rogan because at least in the West, Joe was the guy. In the West, he was the guy. You know what I mean? He was doing yeah, he was the guy. He was doing his thing. You know what I mean? Even back then, I used to think I remember there was this one episode of Fear Factor.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I knew him from. I was watching that Fear Factor show, and they were grabbing electric eel out of the tank, right? And this girl, you know what I mean? She might have grabbed like 3 of them, you know what I mean? And he was like, "Man, you only grab 3, man?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and she was like, "Yeah, I only grabbed 3, or whatever that the low number was, maybe even 1. I don't know." She was like, "You try." He goes, "Okay, I'll try." So he puts his hands in there, man, and he got electrocuted by the fish, and the sound that he made kind of threw me off. You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Oh, this fool's a bitch." You know what I'm saying? Like, what the, you know what I mean? Talking about she can't take more than 1 or 2 or whatever. So I've always had that, you know, like in the back of my head when I would watch all these UFC fights and I hear him talk. But when I listen to him talk, it's like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? The pace that he follows the fights, right? He knows exactly what's going on. So his breakdown makes perfect sense to your uh, average watcher or newcomer to the market. You know what I mean? He's got this sound that makes you want to listen closer, right? And he's consistent with it, right? It comes out very natural. Like we're having a conversation right now, me and you.
Right.
That's how he makes people feel. Like he's talking to each one of them individually, and that's the key to his success. He can make you feel like he's talking to you one on one, even talking to a microphone to all these people around the whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's that one to one. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So he might not be going everywhere like he used to, but he's putting the most work, and he's still putting in work. You know,
Yeah.
not slowing. I mean, he's got other things to do. You know, he's got to do comedy or whatever. So if he was doing less shows with the UFC and sitting on his ass, then we could be like, oh man, he's sitting on his ass. But he's not sitting on his ass. He's doing selling out arenas, stadiums, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? 50,000 seats type situations. This is what he's doing. He's got a purpose, and he's serving that purpose. He's got two purposes. He's got the comedy purpose, and he's got this breakdown purpose. I mean, that's just two that we're just going to talk about. You know what I mean? He's doing other things. We don't even care about all that. The fact that he's been efficient in two different avenues, you know what I mean? He's got to get my vote.
No, 100%. Rogan, to me, there isn't a better ambassador for MMA as a whole, you know, and he's not just UFC. You know, he on the by virtue of the podcast, the JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, he basically he shouts out one. He shouts out Bellator and PFL. Like, this is somebody who just loves the fucking sport. And I actually kind of bore witness to Rogan way before, well, not way before, but Fear Factor. You know, for me, it was news radio, and it was kind of my mom kind of pushing me, kind of in me and my sister, kind of in that broadcasting, you know, whatever. So we were watching the WKRP in Cincinnati with Lonnie Anderson and Burt Reynolds. We were watching Murphy Brown. Those are like secret fucking things. So when we saw news radio with the late great Phil Hartman, Stephen, like Andy Alexander, that was the first time I saw Rogan, you know, and I was actually a fan of Andy Dick. I didn't know what to think about Rogan. He played like the bumbling fucking, repairman and whatever, kind of jock, meathead and whatever. But like, you come to appreciate, what he's done for the sport. So to me, I think shout out to Joe Rogan for elk meat, psychedelics, and MMA, right? Because I don't think if he wouldn't be into any one of those three, people wouldn't be fucking seeking it out. So shout out to that. But I do want to mention some honorable mentions, right? So when we go from the UFC, I want to give, obviously, there's a lot of talented people, right? They might not be like the commentators, right? But shout out to Megan O'Leary, shout out to Karen Bryant, Laura Sanko, who do impeccable work, in their kind of post-fight, pre and post-fight interviews and the fucking panel shows, Angela Hill. But to me, Michael Bisping is just fucking amazing on the mic, as is Daniel Cormier. I am absolutely, in terms of, I kind of don't like the fact that, Jimmy Smith, who is one of the cornerstones of Bellator, right, and then did a year in the UFC, but arguably, even by Rogan's, standards, he's the greatest, analyst in terms of MMA, right? And he can't even get a job, and he's doing, WWE stuff, right? Because there's nothing else for him. So how weird that can be, right? To be a classically trained broadcaster, or not even that. Jimmy Smith came in, from like the reality TV show world, but he's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, right? And I want to shout him out as well. But in terms of making good on it, I think no other not former fighters, but fighter turned broadcasters. You got to look at fucking DC and Bisbing as well as Cruz. But
Mm-hmm.
going back to like that classically trained broadcaster, fucking Brendan Fitzgerald. To me, I actually prefer him, and nothing against John Anik, but to me, he makes it fucking fun, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird that they haven't put Fitzgerald and Rogan together because Fitzgerald is usually either B or C team, but this is a guy who fucking I didn't know much of him before he started doing UFC commentary right around the pandemic and whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
he is just fucking fun to listen to. I absolutely love that dude. Um, and yeah, so for me, Brendan Fitzgerald. Now when you go down to Bellator, right? More fucking Ronaldo. He's doing it fucking solo, man. Obviously you got Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy in the booth, right? In between shows. In between fights, I would rather. And also, Big John does the post fight in the Bellator cage interviews or whatever. But Mauro Ranallo is fucking doing it solo. Shit,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to him. And also
Mm-hmm.
PFL, where you've got Randy Couture, Sean O'Connell,
Mm-hmm.
that team, and it's God, they rotate the third person. Sometimes it's I forgot who that third person is, but former fighter, and it's gonna fucking bane my existence not knowing off the top of my head who it is. But shout out to the entire PFL team. But yeah, those are kind of my picks. But Rogan stands head and shoulders above. And for everybody, oh, fucking Rogan. Whoa. Well, guess what, folks? You guys will be crying once, Uncle Joe fucking, decide to move on. There hasn't been, again, a better ambassador for the sport of MMA than Rogan. It would be last of a dying breed. So Rogan is hand and shoulders above everyone else. It's fun. And if you go like, oh well, he's not a broadcaster, blah blah blah, you weren't fucking complaining the last 20 some odd years, right? Over 20 years. And here's the thing: the sanctity of broadcasting and the sport and whatever, right? Because you're like, fucking, you know, Rogan just sounds like somebody at a fucking frat party, trying to commentate a fight over fucking Miller Lights and shit like that. Well, you say that,
Mm-hmm.
but again, your boy Poirier fucking fought Connor twice, and he's supposed to be preserving his legacy. So again,
Mm-hmm.
don't come at me with the fucking, the sanctity of sports, because last time I checked, this is still entertainment. So I'm just saying, Rogan brings the entertainment. So there you go. Now, in terms of, we're going back here, uh, knockout of the year. Do you have one?
Wow. So many. Oh, that whip kick to Roosevelt Roberts. That was my knockout of the year. Ignacio, I think his name is Ignacio something. I can't remember. I believe Ignacio is his name. Um, to be so tall, to finish in a dynamic way like that. There were others. Don't get me wrong. There were others, but that one stands out to me the most. Just, I mean, there was like maybe 10 seconds left in the match or something ridiculous like that, or even lower than that. The way he finished that with a period, right? He finished it with a period, no questions asked. He won. You know what I mean? The snap, the snap of his leg upon impact, nothing short of perfection. You know, the execution of the whole thing, the way he set it up, it was just, there was a lot of flying knees and this and that, all sorts of stuff, things that were thrown that landed. But when it comes to knowing what you're doing and executing it perfectly, that is the one that stood out to me the most.
No, 1,000%. I dig it. But for me, I don't know if this is my fucking KO of the year, but the bigger gentleman who fucking not only KO'd his opponent but fucking did the splits or whatever the fuck and did that front flip. God, I forgot his name.
Oh yeah, a Huggy Bear or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
dude.
remember that dude.
That's got to be up there. Also,
Oh, he did a spinning heel kick too. That was a spinning heel kick.
Yeah,
but he touched the ground, which is why I take points off of his. But that was very
yeah,
excellent.
I dig that. One of the most
execution as well.
Yeah, 100%. But also one of the most unconventional ones came from none other than the Monkey King, Jordan Levitt, who literally had somebody, kind of holding on to him, and he fucking just slams him on the ground, So
99.
Yeah, that one is good. But I want to go for me. It's Cyril Gane, right? That's the KO of the year, and the reason why I say is this is some weird fuckery, right? That happened with the UFC, right? UFC fucking tries to build up Francis Ngannou the first time, whatever, feeds him to Stipe, right? And they kind of sour on him and basically, fuck up his mentality. He builds himself back up, right? Wins the fucking heavyweight championship from Stipe Miocic, right? Wins it. Man, we haven't heard of Stipe, right? And the UFC is gearing up this fucking super fight between Derek Lewis and fucking Francis Ngannou, right? And they wanted it in Houston, and they basically were thinking that fucking Lewis. It was a foregone conclusion that Lewis is going to win in his hometown, whatever. And going into the fight, I guess there's. I don't think it's like weirdness in Ngannou's camp because Ngannou's manager, Francis's manager, actually was a former UFC employee, right? And he kind of knows the way that they operate and was asking for a specific amount for Francis and whatever, especially, with Lewis. Here's a champ, but you're going to fucking have him go into enemy territory in Houston, right? And fight, a Houston-born fighter. Jesus Christ, man. It's like we need a little bit more scratch. And guess what they go? They go with fucking Lewis and Cyril Gane for the interim title. You got Cyril Gane, who pre-pandemic wasn't even in the UFC, and now he's the interim fucking heavyweight champion of the world. Holy shit! And knocks out Lewis in his hometown. And to me, that was a knockout of the year because it fucking just fucked with UFC's plans. So that is mine. That is mine. Now, Bruce Bobtrotter says, Do Bronx is the fighter of the year. Usman is good, but literally nobody cares about him, so who cares? And Usman is corny and cringy as fuck, whereas Do Bronx is cool and likable. I'm not in a disagreement there. Shout out to Bruce Bobtrotter. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll get to the fight of the year in a second. But yeah, man, to me, Cyril Gane, right? That knockout, he basically unfurled all of the UFC's fucking plans in one fucking, TKO. It wasn't a KO, but it was a TKO of Derek Lewis in Houston at the Toyota Center. So to me, it was just like that was the house of cards, and what is it, Jenga? And you move that fucking piece. That punch, that fucking TKO was that fucking deal that brought all the house of cards, all of the fucking Jenga fucking tower down. So I like a little bit of anarchy. So shout out to Cyril Gane. And again, what this does is fucks it up because nobody really wants to see fucking Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou because Gane really has a shot. And much like Bruce said, right? Gane can be fucking cringy. He doesn't have that media training that, maybe Derek Lewis, Derek Lewis doesn't have media training. He just says wild shit all the time, right? So there's that, and he's built a fucking career out of that. He doesn't give a shit about the title. Almost like a Roddy Piper or Jake the Snake Roberts. He doesn't need the title to fucking draw money, right? That's my balls is hot, fucking Popeye's chicken. You can go down the line, fucking Lewis's money, right? Ngannou, again, he's somebody who got built up, by the UFC and brought down, and still kind of sitting on the sidelines, right? So now we've got a fight that really nobody wants, and the person that is kind of cringy as fuck in Gan could have a real shot of being the fucking champion. So
Undisputed.
yes, and where's that fucking guy, Curtis Blades? The fucking I'm a martial artist. I'm a martial artist. Dana White fucking smoked life into his ass. It was like, yep, you be fucking teaching judo at a fucking strip mall and wherever the fuck you're from. Okay, here we go. This shit has moved. You got a guy who, how long has fucking Razor Blades been in the UFC, right? At least 5 years. And the guy who hasn't even been in the UFC a whole fucking calendar year is the interim fucking champion. Okay.
Right.
Just saying.
Hey, yeah. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what they're thinking, or if they're even thinking about it at all. It might not mean a damn thing to him, or maybe it might. Who knows? You know what I mean? It is what it is, as they say, right?
It is. It is what it is. Now we go to the events of the year, and I mean, what event stands out to you, Voodoo Maximus? Because obviously, we had a return to Fight Island, right? We had a litany of events. For me, I don't know. UFC 264 kind of goes, at least at this kind of juncture, that has, in terms of overall cards, UFC 264 kind of has my nod for events of the year.
Which one is that?
I believe it was the wasn't it the Diaz one? Jesus Christ! Wait.
Yeah. Diaz, Robbie Lawler.
Wait. Go ahead and speak on yours. Let me.
Diaz, Robbie Lawler.
See. Let's. All right.
Yeah. The one for me is Madison Square Garden. That one is the one for me. Just by the history of things. The ways that have fought in this very building. Any opportunity that they can get to go in there and perform and sell it out is the one for me. The Madison Square Garden, the second one.
Yeah,
the last one. The last one. Yeah, go ahead. Say it again.
Yeah, to me that was the return of the Mac, right? That's
right.
And regardless of what happened, right, and Connor's defeat and whatever, I don't think Poirier came out with the bigger store. It was just like, oh fuck, Connor lost, right? Now the MMA diehards were like, oh fuck yeah, awesome, but yeah, to me, I think that was awesome. Also, the fucking Taito Ivasa fucking knocking out Greg Hardy. God, I've wanted somebody to do that for so long. So I think that alone is why I'm picking 264.
That's what's up.
So, agree or disagree, or we can actually instead of the card of the year, what notable fight did you like?
Oh, like fight of the year, right? The peak for me. Are you asking for the peak in performance for me? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Max Holloway versus Yaya Rodriguez was peak performance for me. In regards to what I'm looking for in the match, that's it. That's it right there. That was MMA at the highest level. We have in Max Holloway what is left of the past. Max Holloway, his foundation was boxing, right? He is closer to the old ways than Yaya Rodriguez is. Yaya Rodriguez is more kicker, so his base is different. He's also very, very good with jiu-jitsu. Max is great too, but Max can also wrestle. So, Yaya can also wrestle himself. Max's boxing was, to me, better than Yaya Rodriguez's, but what Yaya was lacking in his boxing, his kicks made up for. So it was a balanced match between two opponents, and they were both, in my eyes, operating in free flow. They were both in free flow, and the way the match progressed for the entirety of the match, all 20 minutes, the transitions, you can see that each one was an assassin, ready to finish the other, given the opportunity. But their defense was so great. It was a perfect storm, right? It was 50-50. It was 50-50. Even though they excelled in different things, it all added up to 50 on both sides in the end. And when they went at it, I mean, as you can see at the end of the match, because it was 50-50, you can see the 50-50 damage of both of them, you know? So Max Holloway versus Yaya Rodriguez was.
I like that. And Bruce Lobtrotter says, I said Usman is cringy, not God. That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of compared God to Usman, where I feel like they're both cringy, but you're giving light to it. God has terrible English and doesn't really say anything interesting at all, even in French. No, 100%. Before the fight in Houston, right? They go to, I think it was on Embedded, where they follow him and his crew to this like custom jersey shop in one of the malls in Houston, right? And he's like, "Oh, look at this!" And it was like some notable like Friends or Burger King or something. I can't even remember the jersey or whatever. But he's just like, "Oh, when they go," and it was just like nobody laughed, nobody. Whatever that he was trying to make, it just fell on deaf ears. Nobody in his crew fucking backed him up. Nobody on the, like the camera, like it wasn't like, there was some, like the way that he meant it, it was like, I'm trying to connect with the American audience, and it just fell flat. It was just horrible. And that's why I say God is cringy. And again, like you said, doesn't say anything interesting, even in his native language in French, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like he's fucking cringy. And the fact that nobody, the UFC did a weird thing where they made a once crazy, like talked about fucking heavyweight division, and then now you've got two champions that neither one of you want to put your chips in, right? In Ngannou and Gane. So again, this is UFC fucking, literally fucking, sacrificing a limb to save the rest of the body, right? But I don't think that the body is really saved, right? Because you went from, I mean, you fucking nullified Stipe, you kind of devalued Francis, and now you've got somebody who theoretically is the future of the division, but nobody really wants to get behind, and it's a real problem. So I think it's amazing. So to me, they're both cringe, both Usman and whatever, but I'm never picking against Usman ever again because I know better than that. I'm stupid enough. So there's that. So without further ado, let's go into the female fighter of the year.
Female fighter of the year. So many. Oh, I don't wanna use recency bias, but it's very, very hard to top. Yeah, there were 5-round wars. Excellent finishes. But magnitude is always what I look at when we're in this situation. Just like Charles Oliveira, you know what I mean? Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena is the one because of the uphill battle that she had to fight. This is a double champion. Hasn't lost a fight in so many fights. You know what I mean? Defending 2 titles, back to back. This is a formidable opponent. Not one person was going for her. I mean, some people were, but the amount of people going for her to win was a lot less than those going for her to lose. You know what I'm saying? So for her to go in there at that level with all that was on the line and finish like she finished, Juliana Pena.
Okay, I like it. Now she's one of mine. I really tried hard, but I couldn't narrow it down to just one. So I'm just in no particular order, right? I'm gonna put Kayla Harrison in here because you can't tell me that the dominance that she's displaying, winning back-to-back, PFL titles, venturing into Invicta, and taking, it wasn't a champion of Invicta, but she, stepped into Invicta in a cross-promotional deal with PFL and Invicta, and basically, dominated her opponent. So you gotta give it up to Kayla Harrison. That was kind of, she's half of what we thought was going to be that super fight, the big money fight between her and Nunez. And there's a reason why it was a big money fight. What were we going to see between it? So I gotta give love to Kayla Harrison. You got to give love to Cyborg, right? Even since her departure in the UFC, she essentially, dominates everybody over in Bellator, right? And you could say, oh, the competition, blah, 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 right? Look at fucking Arlen Blencow, right? Who Cyborg defeated pretty handedly. The Arlen Blencow looks like a fucking world beater, So you can't diminish, anybody in this. It's not like Cyborg is going up against tin cans. So you got to give up, Cyborg, arguably the most dominant female fighter that not named Amanda Nunez. And right now, if you're going to go like some of the best of all time, right? You got to go Cyborg, you got to go Nunez, in no particular order, right? Cyborg, Nunez, Ronda, right? Valentina, right? And you could even make an argument of either Thug Rose or Zhang Weili. But as it stands right now, in early 20...
Joanna Jacek is in the talk too?
Yeah, she's there too. Yeah, so that's it. But I think we might have seen the last of Joanna. She's got opportunities in Poland.
Pay me.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
says, "Pay me what I'm worth. I'll come
Mhm.
back. Pay me." And
Yeah.
when I come back, I want a title shot. She's doing the McGregor now. Her money is that high now, such that
Yeah.
she can, make demands. This is what I wish for all fighters. You know, the ability, the freedom to negotiate, like what we talked about earlier about Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier has freed himself from that burden. I was watching this movie with Jet Li, and the whole thing was he had gone crazy, and then he eventually found enlightenment, and the yin yang was a key to success in that clan, and he mastered it. He finally figured it out. He went crazy trying to figure it out, but when he figured it out, he became a super master, and he was just super balanced. What were we talking about?
This we were talking about well, actually you were bringing up the dominance of Joanna Jędrzejczyk and her needing to get paid. So
Oh, right. So,
that Jet Li movie,
I'm
fucking like
exactly. It took me to a
the
different
Steven
place.
brand or something.
I was like,
That was
oh man,
great.
that was a dope ass movie. But um, when you can get yourself to this position, and you can stand like a man, you know what I'm saying, and dictate your terms. This is what I wish for these fighters. I want them to be able to get to a place of comfort rather quickly, and then you can start playing the other games like a title or whatever. But if it's chasing the title on the route to that money, okay, great. But if you ever presented with the opportunity Dustin Poirier was presented with, title or money, that kind of money, go for that kind of money. Because if you
Mhm.
get that kind of money and you win, you still hot. You
Yeah.
still hot. You know what I'm saying? You're probably even hotter because you're rich now. You know what I'm saying? So they'll more than likely give you the title match anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good anyway. Go for the money. Always go for the money. Dustin Poirier, that was like fine wine. You know what I mean? Dustin Poirier, you know what I mean? Decision making, buddy. Here's the good decision making. You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go. So I'm gonna go. I 5. So again, we're going Kayla Harrison, right? Dominating PFL. Chris Cyborg dominating Bellator, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
you've got Valentina Shevchenko. Who's more dominant than Valentina Shevchenko? You know, don't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got to give an honorable mention, to bring herself back from the brink of almost extinction, where she didn't even want to fight anymore. But Thug Rose Namajunas, right? The
Mm-hmm.
UFC
Yes.
Women's Strawweight Champion, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she's got to be in there, right? So I said 4. I said 5, but I really mean 6, right? And the top 2, in no particular order, is Amanda Nunez, because before going into that fight with Pena, she looked unbeatable. Even in the first round,
Mm-hmm.
she looked
Mm-hmm.
like a
Mm-hmm.
fucking world beater. And not saying that she
Mm-hmm.
isn't, I'm just saying. So Amanda Nunes in there, but obviously, if you're gonna round out the fucking top, and it's really a fucking 2-horse race. To be honest with you, right? It's either Valentina or Juliana Pena, and I think just that one act, right? She kind of nullifies everyone, because if you were kind of put like, oh well, Cyborg was more dominant. Okay, cool. But Nunez beat her, and then Pena
Mm-hmm.
beat Nunez. So if you MMA math the fucking whatever, Pena, kind of dwarfs all of the fucking accolades of any other female competing in MMA today. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess I answered my own question. Even though I've got 6, it's really 1. It's Juliana Pena.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. People don't understand the burden of having a child. You know what I'm saying? And being a fighter. It's you're you're placed in a situation where you have to make a conscious decision whether to be a deadbeat parent or someone who isn't a deadbeat parent. You're presented with this. You know what I'm saying? Because if there's no help, what are you gonna do? You know, you want to be a great champion, right? That means it takes time. You're gonna have to sacrifice time. Where's that time going to come from? From your child's time. You know what I mean? So you're forced to make a decision. And when you start to split too much, you know, if your percentages aren't right for your household, then you suffer as the athlete. You suffer as the athlete because now you're as the athlete you are incomplete. You know what I mean? In regards to getting to where you need to be to win any match in an MMA match, right? So that's what it is, man.
Fuck yes, I dig it, man. I dig it. So, without further ado, I think we go to the male fighter of the year, and fuck, couldn't narrow it down. Couldn't narrow it down. I've actually got two, and to me, I don't think it's any. I don't think there's any dispute. But I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira, right? Because he dominated Michael Chandler, right? And most people are like, Bellator, blah blah blah. Well, even Michael Chandler's last fucking fight in Bellator was a Bellator world title contention fight, and he lost that, right? But he is one of the cornerstones of Bellator. Who can argue that Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler's fucking trilogy isn't what fucking had people talking about Bellator in its early days? I was watching that shit. So to me, and then after that, beating Dustin Poirier, where he was the people's champion, right? People, the fucking finally, shutting up the loudmouth Conor McGregor twice and, whatever. But, to me, Charles Oliveira is on fucking top of the world. But in another deal, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on it just because he hasn't stepped into the cage since his last fight, which happened to be a title win, actually a double title win. It was fucking AJ the Mercenary Mckee. And he is undefeated in MMA, literally started his career in Bellator. So if you're talking about the long-standing history with the UFC that Charles Oliveira has, well, go ahead and look at AJ Mckee, right? And not only did he win the title, but he also won a Grand Prix of literally a murderer's row, the best of the best that the featherweight, the featherweight division outside of the UFC had to offer. Bellator brought them all in, right? And he stands on top, and he had knockouts, he had submissions, he had all of it. I was there when the confetti fell at the hallowed halls of the Forum in Inglewood, California. Incredible fucking night. So to me, it's two people who have had long-standing history of their organization that become champion, and arguably at the biggest time of those particular divisions notoriety. So AJ Mckee and Charles Oliveira. I know it's fighter of the year, but this has got to be an asterisk. You can't argue that those two gentlemen haven't had bigger fucking careers, bigger years. Nobody has bigger fucking years than those two. So those are my two.
Yeah. I will have to go with Oliveira as well. Yeah, Oliveira. The recent history that he's been able to string together has been flawless. He came in, got his opportunity to be the number one contender. He did that, got that victory, got the victory fight, the championship fight, did that, came back and defended, did that, you know what I mean? Now he's set for the next one. So the fact that he was able to capture the title, the heavyweight, no, not the heavyweight, the lightweight title of the world, securing that, coming back, tasting more money than he's used to, getting a fill of that too. That's as big as it gets. You know what I'm saying? That's as big as it gets, unless you're Conor McGregor. You know what I mean? And he's an outlier. You can hear him in this conversation. You know what I mean? We're not even going to talk about him, but Oliveira is the one right now, most accomplished to me, at the highest level, most accomplished. AJ Mckee, undefeated the whole time to the title, but there will be those who say, well, he's not facing top-notch competition, blah, blah, blah. I don't even care about all that. The fact that someone is thinking that already puts a blemish on an automatic blemish. You know what I mean? In that tight race, right? So, but it's not that I'm putting a blemish. That's just, you know, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's tainted his supplement just a tiny bit.
You know what's funny, right? The same motherfuckers that are like, "Ooh, Joe Rogan, why is he? He needs to fucking not be in the commentary booth." Are the same motherfuckers that are like, "Oh, AJ Mckee, he's not legitimate because he's in Bellator." Something to do with my sport. Fuck all that shit, man. You know what? I'm sorry. You know, as great as Charles Oliveira is, fuck, I like it. That's it. He is my fighter of the year. Yeah, male fighter of the year. There you go. Love Oliveira. Nothing against him. Nothing against his accomplishment. But again, for all you hardcore MMA whatever, that will fucking shit on PFL. That'll shit on one. That'll shit on LFA, Bellator, everything that isn't UFC. But then also like, why doesn't Dana White fucking pick the fights that I want? Whatever. Fuck all that shit, man. Like, so I'm just saying, just cool your fucking jets. I love you, right? Like, but you kind of started to sound like those fucking filthy casuals, right? You're like, I love MMA, but only watch UFC, right? That's you. Just say like, you're a fucking, you know, a UFC loyalist, but you're gonna negate every other person because they haven't fought in the UFC. You're gonna nullify fucking Fedor. You're gonna like just please just stop. Just stop. You know? Yeah.
Fedor had a chance to come to the UFC, man. He asked for too much money. Usually it is said that those who are afraid ask for too much money.
Fedor fought people on steroids. Got dumped on his head. You know? Shit. And he's still fucking up people. So I'm just saying. Oh, and also with the fucking comeback of the year, I'm sorry, it fucking went right over my head. But you got to give it all like an honorable mention to the oldest UFC champion of all time, one Glover Teixeira, right?
Yeah.
It could be a fucking
that ain't
bigger
comeback of the year. That's comeback of a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's a comeback of a lifetime. Because he's had
so
an
much
opportunity before, right?
Yeah.
He already had
so much of his career just fucked up. Yeah, not being able to come to the country and you know, yeah. So that's kind of it too, you know. So I think going into 2022, we're gonna have like, you know, if I can Glover, I would have fucking left at 40, 42, 43. Like, what do you have to fucking prove, man? You give it up already.
Nothing left.
You know? There's nothing left.
Now he's got to make some money. Now he's got to use some pay-per-view points. Hopefully he gets a bunch of pay-per-view matches. You know what I'm saying? And string together maybe one or two. You know what I'm saying? He can go over on a farm in Brazil, buy himself a nice 15, 20 acres. You know what I'm saying? Horses. You know what I mean? Invest in the land or whatever, and just chill out. You know, he's got the opportunity now. You know, he's got the pay-per-view opportunity because he is champion. So he's got to beat this young kid. Right? What's the kid's name? Prochaska. Yeah, Yuri Prochaska, I believe his name is. I believe he's next in line.
Yeah, it might be.
Prochaska. And then knocked out Dominic Cruz. No, Dominic Nunez. Huh? What's his name? Dominic Reyes.
Reyes, yeah.
Dominic Reyes.
There you go.
Yeah. Yuri
I was
Prochaska.
like, Dominic Cruz. It was one of them Dominics. It wasn't Dominic Mysterio for sure.
No.
But yeah, man, shit. You know, there's an incredible fucking year of fights. You know, if anything that 2021 brought to us is a lot of questions on where every division in every MMA promotion across the world, regional, amateur, you know, regional pro, all the way up into the big leagues of the Bellator, PFLs, and the UFC, right? So with that all being said, I can't wait to see what happens for the year 2022. Obviously, the UFC kicks out their year on Saturday night, January 15th, for their first UFC Fight Night card on the 15th. So we'll see. And obviously, we're going to probably see the One Championships and Bellator, Combate, PFL announce their stuff for the year. I'm excited for the PFL fucking season, just because there's a lot of released talent, you know, from the UFC, right? So we're going to probably see a lot of guys and girls chance at gold where they probably wouldn't have had that before, you know? So I'm all for it. So, yeah, man. Thank you guys for supporting us in the woods for one more year as we enter it. We started this thing, actually, it's a little over a year, right? We started this thing back in the height of the pandemic of 2020.
Yeah.
We went all through fucking 2021, you know, and we've had you guys here along for the ride, and we're broadcasting multiple locations. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, also being simulcast on the bodyslam.net YouTube page as well. So fucking, if you want your fucking voodoo in the woods, we've basically amassed more places where you can find it. So, and Sean Johnson says, fire. Shout out to you, Sean John Thompson. Now, obviously, for people who want to get more abreast of you, former U of MMA champion, Pius Inilalobo, better known as Voodoo Maximus, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Definitely YouTube, Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, Snapchat. All these you will find when you search Voodoo Maximus.
There it is. That's Voodoo Maximus. And for all the places that he said, instead of Voodoo Maximus, it's a lot less scary. But according to Woods, right here, you can put that in any Google machine, the DuckDuckGo, if you're into probably, I don't know, like some seedy fucking things. Just not your internet to be all fucking nullified and shit like that. Wherever you do, put in according to Woods, you'll find this face for radio and the litany of podcasts that I do, including this one right here, and also my own, which would be the According to Woods podcast. So go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to both of those podcasts. We're growing this shit just for you, coming in and fucking talking the fist fights and the fisticuffs and everything week after week after week, and we appreciate your support. We wish you nothing but good health and prosperity, especially as health is becoming a kind of a varied quantity nowadays. So we just wish you nothing but prosperity going into 2022, and we'll be fucking talking more fights with you going into 2022. This is I'm Woods, and I guess we are out.